Hey everybody, thanks so much for joining me. This is Betsy from the Greetery. In this video, I'll be showcasing some new products from our Bunnies and Bows collection, and I'll be showing you how to put together one of the cards from this beautiful card set. So I put this set of cards together using some new products from our Bunnies and Bows collection. Besides the cards, there's matching envelopes with beautiful flaps. So let's take a look at the products I'll be using in today's video. First of all, we have the Bitty Botanicals rubber stamp and stencil set. This is a rubber stamp and one stencil combo. I'll also be using the matching Bitty Botanicals die. I'll be using the Diamond Ribbons die, the Diamond Ribbons stencil, and also Crest number 3 die. For sentiments, I'll also be using an older set called Curio Labels. This is just a great little set that has a basic sentiments and a nice size for what we're using today. So we're going to start out by stamping and stenciling a floral panel using the Bitty Botanicals stamp and stencil set. So I have a 4 3/4 by 6 inch panel of cardstock. This is the same size as the Bitty Botanicals stencil. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in my MISTI. I am going to take the Bitty Botanicals rubber stamp and I'm going to center that on top of that panel. The stamp is slightly smaller so you can get a really good idea of where it needs to be centering wise. It doesn't have to be exact, but I'm going to aim for centering that on that panel. Go ahead and close my lid and we're going to stamp. The stamp has all the foliage on it and the stencil has all the blooms. So this foliage is all going to be stamped. I'm going to use iced spruce distress oxide ink. Make sure my panel is nicely tight up in the corner. And I'm going to give that a couple of impressions just to get a really nice solid coverage on my ink. Okay, so I've given that 3 impressions and I kind of like the way that looks, so I'm going to go ahead and call that good. Next, I'm going to take the stencil, and this has some etching in it so that you can make sure it's oriented the correct direction. It has the name of the stencil up in the corner. It's just one stencil, so depending on how good you were at centering the rubber stamp on the stencil, it might line up perfectly when you just nest that up in the upper right corner, or you might need to just adjust a little bit, but you'll be able to see where that lines up. You're going to be pretty close to the right spot if you centered the red rubber onto this panel, but just kind of check the placement and make sure that you're in the right spot and that all of the blooms are lined up with the stems. I like to take some washi and just hold everything in place. And I'm going to be using some shades of yellow and gold to do the stenciling on these blooms. My card set is kind of monochromatic, so I have a pink one, a blue one, a purple one, and a yellow one. So I'm using mustard seed, fossilized amber, dried marigold, and brushed corduroy. So I'll just go ahead and stencil these blooms using these various shades of yellow. I might just speed up the video because this is just super simple sponging with some finger brushes over the top of the stencil. I'm also going to bring in some scattered straw because I like the nice golden color of this yellow. As you can see, I'm just randomly choosing some blooms around the stencil, spreading out the different colors, not being too particular about what color goes where, just getting a nice variety of color across all of the different blooms. Our stenciling is done and we have this super cute floral pattern. The next thing I'm going to do is take my paper trimmer and trim this panel down to a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch A2 card size. So at the top and bottom edges, we have some partial floral images. So I'm going to go ahead and line that up with my trimmer, and so that those bottom edges are trimmed right along the edge of those florals, and then the sides are very close to the blooms. So I'm gonna start about right there, trim that, and then I'll measure, and if I need to trim a little more from the other side, I'll go back. But here's a 4 1/4. I'm gonna make sure I don't trim any blooms off. I'm gonna go just a little bit beyond 4 1/4, trim that, and then I'll go back and trim just a little bit more off of this side. Okay. And then this bottom edge should be just right to go 5 1/2, and we're right at those partial blooms there. So there we have our 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch panel. So next we're going to work on a die cut. I have die cut the diamond ribbons using cream cardstock. This is a super pale yellow, kind of a creamy yellow cardstock. I've die cut that, and I'm going to take stencil number 2 from the diamond ribbons stencil set, and I'm going to stencil just the intersecting points of those diamonds. Just going to use some medium yellow. This is fossilized amber, and I'll just go ahead and add some color to those intersecting points. So now we're going to take our diamond ribbons die cut and layer it over the top of our floral panel. I have my precision glue press glue gun here, which is great for this type of thing because it has just a super fine point on it. I'm going to add a little liquid glue to each of those intersecting points and also these small points along the edges. To layer that over the top, I'm going to start in one corner and then just work my way up the panel. Before I layer my sentiment and finish this off, I like to use pens and colored pencils to add just a little bit of detail to the floral images. Just some super simple dots and maybe some shading with colored pencils. It just adds a fun little bit of detail. Next, I'm going to add my sentiment. I have a crest number 3 that I die cut from white cardstock, and I stamped a happy birthday from the Curio Labels set and heat embossed that with gold embossing powder. The crest number 3 die has these extra little detail pieces that can be used or not. I think they were perfect for this, so I did include those both at the top and the bottom. So I'm going to add this to my base with some foam dots. And I'm just going to center that, making sure that the tip of the bottom and the point at the top are nicely centered between those diamonds at the top and the bottom. I'm also going to add a little bow to the top. This is from the diamond ribbons die set. There's all these cute little bows as well as the diamond frame. An assortment of, I believe there's 6 different little bows included in that set. So I'm going to add that right there. I also want to add just a little flower cluster here below my sentiment. To do that, I have a second floral panel that I created off screen. This one, instead of using all different shades of yellow ink, I used a variety of colors of ink. And I'm going to die cut this panel using the matching Bitty Botanicals die. So you'll notice I did not bother stenciling the florals on the top and bottom edges where there's just partial floral images because the die doesn't cut those out. So the die just cuts the full floral images. So I'm going to go ahead and layer that over the top, and you can just very easily center that with all of the blooms nicely inside the cutouts, and use some washi tape to secure that in place and go ahead and run it through your die cut machine. For placement, I like to look at the stems of the flowers and make sure they're all nicely centered inside of the die. Once I'm happy with how it's positioned, just tape it in place and go ahead and die cut it. So I ran that through my machine, and now you'll see when I pull this away, we have all of these cute little individual floral blooms, floral clusters. So we can go ahead and use those in so many other ways too. I'm going to use one on my crest number 3 die. But we have a whole assortment that we can use for all sorts of things. So I'm going to go ahead and take this one right here. And before I attach that with a little bit of foam, I'm going to again add just a little bit of detail to those blooms using a pen. And then maybe I'll do some shading with a colored pencil as well. I'll use a couple of foam dots and attach that. I used the same method that we just did to create this pretty yellow card with some other colors to create a blue version, a pink version, and a purple version. So lastly, I wanted to show you how to create a coordinating envelope with this pretty design on the flap. I don't know about you, but I would love getting something like this in the mail. It's so pretty. So we're going to go ahead and I'll show you how I did that. Obviously, the design of the Bitty Botanicals is vertical and the envelopes are horizontal. I have in my Misty here one of our Nouveau Notes envelopes, which has the nice, really deep V flap, which is perfect for this. So in order to do this, I stamped the Bitty Botanicals onto a panel of cardstock just to give myself a visual of where I want to position the stamp. So I'm going to aim for having this full row of blooms right here, kind of along the top edge of that envelope. So in order to do that, I'm going to center it side to side. And then I'm going to make sure my stamp is upright and center it on that panel. Doesn't have to be exact, obviously, because it's all good, but I'm going to center it and then close up my lid. Okay, and I'm going to make note of where my envelope is, and I'm actually going to take a colored pencil, marker, whatever you want to use. And I'm going to give myself, I'm going to mark this here just so I can see where I had that envelope and I don't lose that spot. Like I said before, it's not super particular. I just kind of want to generally know. I'm going to take a piece of scrap paper and put that underneath my flap of my envelope so that when I stamp, I'm only getting the images on the flap and not the rest of the envelope. And I'm going to take a magnet and secure that in place. And then once again, I'm going to take iced spruce, same color that we used to do the stamping on our card panel. I can take that out of my Misty, and then we're going to go ahead and stencil the blooms. Pull out my stencil again and line it up with the stamped images. Tape it in place. I do not want to stencil these. I don't want those to extend onto the front of my envelope, so I am going to take some washi tape and just kind of mask those areas. I know I could be careful and just not get ink there, but I know that I will forget and I will not pay attention and I will end up with ink there. So I'm just going to tape those off and then go ahead and stencil the blooms. Okay, take away our stencil and we have these cute florals, and then we can go ahead and add the ribbon details as well. So to stencil the ribbon detail, I'm going to use stencils 1 and 2 from the diamond ribbon set. So this is designed to go this way, but on our envelope flap, we are going to turn it sideways. The florals don't fit quite as well when it's turned sideways, but we can make it work. I'm just kind of fiddling with placement until I can find a placement that I like. Like I said, the florals are designed more for the ribbons to go the other way, but we can, like I said, make it work. I just want to make sure that I get it centered so that this bottom point is centered with the tip of the envelope flap. And then I'll go ahead and just stencil these ribbons. I'm using scattered straw for just a paler yellow. Once again, I have a piece of scrap paper tucked underneath the envelope flap so that I don't end up stenciling onto the other part of the envelope, the non-flap part. Okay, that's super cute. And then I'm going to take stencil number 2 and add the little intersecting dots. And there is our super cute stenciled envelope flap that matches our card. So there you go. Have fun playing around with maybe the monochromatic color schemes like I did here, or maybe you want to make your cards just all kinds of colors all in one card, which would be super beautiful as well. So thanks so much for joining me, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this project and also in getting to see some of the new products from our Bunnies and Bows collection in action. These new products will be available in the shop at thegreetery.com beginning on Friday, March 21st at 10 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Thanks so much, guys, and we'll see you soon.